Hey guys, sorry I haven't made a video in a while. I've just been so busy with schoolwork and preparing for school to start. That's wonderful. Yeah, but I will be making more videos really soon and there will be a lot more coming up. So yay. So today I'd like to pick up from where I left off in my last video and talk about what ableism is. The thing about ableism is that it's a really broad topic and there's so much that I could talk about. So I'm just going to do a really brief overview and give some examples. So what is ableism? When I explain ableism, I like to compare it to racism because they're very similar and people seem to have more of an understanding and more knowledge on what racism is compared to what ableism is. For time's sake, I'm not going to get too much into that comparison, but if by the end of this video you're still confused as to what ableism is overall and you want to know more, you can read my most recent blog post called Ableist Slurs, where I go more in depth with the comparison. The link to that will be in the description of this video and you can check it out if you want. So, the dictionary definition of ableism is the discrimination of those with disabilities in favor of those with abled bodies. So what does that mean? What does that include? There's so many things that I could talk about, but I'm going to save them for some of the future videos that I'm going to be doing. So for right now, I'm just going to discuss some really quick examples that I've come across. One thing that I've noticed in our society is that people like to glamorize disabilities, and that's a very ableist thing to do because they're promoting the idea that being disabled is a wonderful thing that you should want. Now let me tell you, that's very inaccurate because having a disability isn't wonderful. You can still live an amazing life with a disability. I'm not saying that having a disability will ruin your life and that it's the worst thing in the world. You can still have a good life, you can still have a happy life, but just like how with everybody else, there are good days and there are bad days. When you have a disability, your life can be great, but you're gonna have really hard days. You'll struggle, you'll get frustrated, you'll get sad, you'll get depressed, you'll get angry. That's all inevitable, and society tends to ignore that part of our lives, and it just focuses in on the parts of it that can be glorified. For example, one of my best friends moved to Michigan last year, and one day I got a text from her and she was telling me that her school created a fake an injury spirit day, and she was concerned that it might be ableist. A bunch of students in wheelchairs and on crutches faking something that's an unfortunate reality for millions of people? Yeah, that's ableist. But how exactly? How is that ableist? Well, the only way I can explain this is if I make a comparison to racism. So, imagine your school decides to have race day for Spirit Week, in which students are allowed to dress as any race of their choice. And then the next day, students come into school with their skin painted black, grills on their teeth, cornrows in their hair, and other students have giant sombreros on their heads, or fake mustaches, or some of them are wearing saris and bindis. This is clearly a form of racism through cultural appropriation, and just as this would be offensive to anyone of those races, faking an injury as a spirit day is offensive to those with disabilities. Another example is glamorizing wheelchairs. They're often displayed in our society as an accessory. In 2015, Kylie Jenner posed in a wheelchair during a photo shoot for Interview magazine, basically making ableism a fashion statement. Gemma Flanagan, who is a 32-year-old model and disability activist who was diagnosed with Guillain-Barré syndrome in 2011, responded to that photo shoot by doing one of her own in which she was photographed without her wheelchair to challenge the idea of using a wheelchair as a prop. I admire that a lot. Wheelchairs are not accessories. They're not props. They're a disabled person's legs, and it's their way of getting around. There's nothing ugly about them, but there's also nothing about them that should make abled people envy those who use them. When Kylie Jenner used it as a prop, the reason it bothered me was because she was incorporating something that I use in my life, something that's a really big part of my life, and to the lives of many other disabled people. But at the end of the day, she can stand and she can get out of that chair and never have to use it again if she doesn't want to. And a lot of disabled people can't do the same. I don't know what her intention was behind using a wheelchair in her photo shoot, but she used it, and then just to make her photo shoot better, I'm not sure, but she used it, and then she got to forget about it. And that's so weird about a lot of people in our society. They see a pair of crutches or a wheelchair and they think that they're toys. They think that they're cool or they're pretty, and so many people come up to me and ask to use my crutches as if they're some sort of plaything. And then after a while they get bored of them or they get tired of using them and then they give them back to me. Well, guess what? I can't do that. If I get bored of them or I get tired of using them, I have to suck it up and keep using them because that's my life. That's what it's actually like to be disabled. And our society just doesn't pick up on that. By glamorizing disabilities, they're creating this idea that being disabled isn't as serious and challenging as it actually is. And that's really dangerous because then that leads to people not taking disability seriously and not taking our struggles into consideration, which ultimately makes our lives a lot more difficult. Because when people don't understand or acknowledge people with disabilities, they won't make accommodations for them or make places accessible to them, which is something we depend on. I hope that makes sense, because this is an incredibly difficult thing to explain, and I tried my best, but yeah. So that concludes my video. Thank you so much for watching. Like, subscribe, comment what you think of this video, or comment any questions you might have, and I'll do my best to answer them. And be sure to check out my blog. The link will be in the description. And if you like this video, stay tuned for my next video, which will be on ableist slurs. Yay! Okay. Bye!